Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be making a strawberry cake. This cake is super delicious and very easy to make. So we're going to start with a cake box mix, and this is just Duncan Hines Classic White, and we're going to make a couple of modifications to it. So here it calls for 1 cup of water, 3 eggs, and half a cup of vegetable oil. So you can use any white cake mix, it doesn't matter the brand. Here I have a vanilla jello pudding mix, and this is a 5.1 ounce package. And this is important, guys. It is important that you use the 5.1 ounce packet for this recipe. And then the modifications that we're going to be making to the mix is going to be, instead of adding 1 cup of water, we're going to substitute that for 1 cup of milk. And then we're going to add the half a cup of vegetable oil. And then we're also going to add 1 cup of full fat sour cream. I have not tried making this with light or fat-free sour cream, so I don't know if it would turn out or not. So I guess if you guys try it, go ahead and let me know down in the comments if it worked out just fine. So I'm just mixing everything together, and then I'm going to add my 3 eggs. This cake is super delicious, guys. Um, and definitely a crowd pleaser. If you have a event to go to or a family gathering and you're supposed to bring a dessert, make this cake. It's definitely a crowd pleaser. There hasn't been one instance where I've made this cake and people were not just saying how delicious it was. And this recipe comes from my friend Caroline, so shout out to Caroline. And then here I'm adding the pudding mix. And the reason why I'm saying that it's important for you to use the 5.1 ounce was because I was making this cake the other day and I accidentally added a 4.6 ounce package of pudding, and I was mixing it and the batter looked very runny because this is a very thick batter, you'll see in a second, and it looked runny, and I was asking myself, what am I doing wrong? Why does it look so runny? And when I was looking at the pudding mix, I noticed that it was a 4.6 ounce instead of a 5.1. So you want to make sure that you use the 5.1 to get the best results. And then we're just going to mix everything together. This is going to take a little bit of arm work because, like I said, it is a thick batter. So just mix it until it's fully combined and you don't see any more white balls of flour. Here I have two 9-inch cake pans. And then what I did is I got some parchment paper and I cut out a round shape just to cover the bottom. And then I greased them with a nonstick spray. I found that when I didn't do this, the cakes browned from the bottom a little bit too much for my liking. So parchment paper at the bottom fixed that issue. And then here I'm just showing you guys that the box says to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and that for a two 9-inch round pans to leave them in the oven for 25 to 28 minutes. So here I'm just dividing the batter as evenly as humanly possible. And it doesn't have to be perfect, guys. That's the beauty of this being a homemade cake. It's not a professional cake or a store-bought cake, so it's okay if it looks homemade, which is not a bad thing. Just make sure that you try and even it out as much as possible. Sometimes I use my kitchen scale, but when I'm feeling lazy, I just even them out. And then as you can see, this is a very thick batter, so it doesn't spread to the sides by itself. So you want to make sure that you spread it to the sides. What I do is I spread it and then I tap it just to ensure that the cake batter is evenly spread out. Since this is a tiered cake, you want to make sure that you try and get it as even as possible. But like I said, guys, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's the gratifying thing about cooking. You get to say that you made it yourself and it looks homemade. Okay, so our cakes are cooling. I took them out after 30 minutes. So I added an additional 3 minutes to the time because when I checked it with the toothpick, it didn't seem quite done. So now they're cooling. So let's make the frosting. The frosting is gonna be one package of cream cheese and then a stick of butter. So to that, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of vanilla and then we're just gonna whip it together. Okay, so now that it looks at a good whip consistency, here I have 2.5 cups of sugar. So I'm just gonna add that. I'm gonna just add it all at once. I know that people say you're supposed to add it gradually, but I'm just gonna add it all at once. There we go. And then make sure that you turn this on slow at first because then it's gonna be all over you. So here we go. And then just let that get incorporated. Once it gets incorporated, you could turn it up at a higher speed. Okay, so I'm just gonna scrape down the sides a little bit just to make sure that everything gets incorporated and mixed well. Okay, I have a 1 ounce pack here. These are the ones that I use. You can pretty much find them anywhere, but these are the ones that I use. I just crush them up and just crush them up to whatever consistency that you want. If you want your cake to have big pieces of strawberry, then go ahead and do that. So we're just gonna add those. So let's turn it on and then gradually add these in. Or add them all at once. This cake is very forgiving. And just let that mix in. Now, at this point, if you like your frosting sweeter, you can add more powdered sugar. I think that for 1 pack of cream cheese and 1 stick of butter, 2.5 cups of powdered sugar is perfect. So we're just gonna mix it, and here is our frosting for our cakes once they've cooled. The freeze-dried strawberries are super delicious because they get rehydrated when you mix them in with the butter and the cream cheese. So it kind of tastes like you have chunks of strawberry throughout your cake. Okay, so our frosting is ready for us to frost our cakes. Again, the cakes have to be completely cooled in order for you to frost your cakes. So let's put this in the fridge for maybe about 5 to 10 minutes, just while we finish cooling our cakes. All right, so here we have our 2 cakes and they have completely cooled. It's important that you let your cakes completely cool because if not, your frosting is going to melt. So as you can see here, the cake is beautifully browned from the bottom. It's not overly browned, and the parchment paper, like I said, it really helps with the browning of the cake. So I'm putting my cake on a cake stand, and this is just a portable cake stand because I'm going to be taking this cake somewhere. I recommend that you frost your cake wherever you're going to be displaying it because it helps in the end when you are done frosting your cake. It's very difficult for you to move it to another display. You just don't want to risk messing it up. So I'm spreading an even layer to the top of the cake, which is going to be the middle. I know that some people prefer there to be a lot of frosting in the middle or a little bit of frosting in the middle, and that's the beauty of making the cake yourself. You can do whatever you want. So if you want some thick frosting in the middle, by all means, layer it on. I like it in the middle, not too much, not a little bit, but just enough. And so we're just going to spread that out evenly. And then when we're done spreading that out, we're going to add our top layer, which is going to be our second cake. Okay, so our cake is now ready for the second layer, and I don't know why it's so satisfying to me to watch me peeling the parchment paper off, but it definitely really helps with the browning of the cake, and it also helps to make sure that your cake doesn't stick. So I recommend that you take that time to take that extra step to ensure that your cakes come out perfect. Here I'm going to be frosting the top of the cake and also making sure that we frost the sides. And when you're frosting the cake, you want to make sure that you're not heavy-handed and that you are spreading your frosting evenly and with a very light hand, because if not, then you run the risk of tearing up your cake every single time you spread the frosting, and then you'll have little pieces of cake throughout your frosting, which is something that you don't want, especially if you're going to be taking it somewhere. Alright, so once you're done frosting it, what I did is that I just took a paper towel and I just cleaned up the edges of the cake and any spilled frosting on my cake stand. And this is not a necessary step, but it's definitely a step that you want to take if you want it to look extra pretty. And if you're going to be taking it somewhere, it's just more visually appealing to clean up the edges of your cake stand. So, yeah, there you have it, guys. This cake is super easy to make and very delicious. I highly recommend that you try making this recipe. If you are to try out any of the recipes on my channel, let it be this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoy this recipe, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye!